Hey guys, Remi Sovran here. So, for those of you that watched my last video, I hope you guys enjoyed it and were able to learn something, where I specifically talked about how spinal traction could potentially heal a lumbar or sacral disc bulge. Now today I want to talk about movements and exercises to avoid for someone that may be suffering from a lumbar or sacral disc bulge. So the first movement or type of movement that an individual should avoid if they are suffering from a lumbar or sacral disc bulge would be spinal flexion. So spinal flexion would involve any forward tilting or forward bending of the spine. So looking at it from a visual perspective, we'll take an individual standing in a neutral position so their spine is practically straight. So the individual also would be suffering from we'll say an L5, S1 disc bulge. So when the individual begins to bend forward with their spine, what ends up happening is that the discs between each vertebral body will open up posteriorly. They will all open up posteriorly, and what ends up happening is that with that disc bulge that the individual is suffering from, since it's already bulged out, it's going to slightly move posteriorly even more. And it's going to place more pressure on that sciatic nerve root. And therefore the individual is going to experience more pain within that region, and they could also potentially experience a shooting pain going down their leg. So now, some practical movements that individuals would want to avoid would be any bent over rows or sit-ups or deadlifts. These are three specific exercises that individuals have to avoid if they are suffering from a lumbar or sacral disc bulge, because these exercises are basically going to only cause more pain, and they could potentially cause more injury to the injured area. Now, the second type of movement an individual would want to avoid would be straight leg hip flexion. So straight leg hip flexion, when you look at it, will take an individual lying on their back in a neutral position. So you have your individual here. They're lying down, basically in a good neutral posture, and they're suffering from we'll say, an L4, L5 disc bulge. So what ends up happening is that when an individual engages in straight leg hip flexion, so when they raise their leg, the sciatic nerve stretches out. And when the sciatic nerve stretches out, what ends up happening is that there's going to be more pressure placed on the nerve root from the disc that's bulging, and this is going to cause more pain within that localized area. Now, this is also a common test, and it's known as a straight leg raise, a single leg leg raise that a lot of health practitioners will use to determine if an individual is suffering from the symptom known as sciatica, and it can also potentially determine if an individual has some sort of disc injury. So now some specific movements and exercises that are related to a straight leg raise would be hanging leg raises, leg extensions, or leg press. All these exercises should be avoided because they're only going to cause more pain, and they're only going to place more pressure on that sciatic nerve root, and this could be more problematic, causing more injury. So these two specific movements should be avoided at all costs if an individual is suffering from a lumbar or sacral disc bulge until that injured area or injured disc is healed. So there you have it, guys. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope it is helpful for you guys. Now, for some future videos, I'm going to specifically get into some exercises that can be used to prevent lower back pain, as well as to rehabilitate any lower back injuries, specifically the disc bulge. So guys, stay tuned for those videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks, guys.